And action.
The Star Wars reported. Sorry?
The Star Wars Reporter podcast.
Got it. Or you are watching.
Yeah. Action. The Star Wars Reporter podcast.
Right. The Star Wars Reporter podcast you are watching. Where's my $50?
Back with the Technical Difficulties Star Wars Reporter podcast. I'm your host, one of the hosts, Wookiee Steve. I'm the guy with the computer from 1985, apparently, as well as the internet. So welcome to episode 107. And we are back after a long hiatus. We all blame Darth Slobo for that just because as a new father, we need to bug him as much as we can because he hasn't slept. So
running on fumes, guys. Running on fumes. A couple new clips in there too. I saw a couple new clips in the opening credits. That's pretty cool.
It was a pretty good video if it would have started nicely, but it was cool seeing us all looking at the camera with scared eyes. What? So that's good. But how about before we get started, we'll introduce everyone. Welcome back. Let's see if this will work.
Hey, it's me.
Super Todd.
Absolutely. Nice to be back. Nice to talk to all four of us again. I'm looking forward to talking about some Ahsoka here.
Yes. And back from her mission in the Middle East fighting terrorists.
No.
Kylo Jen.
Oh, my life is so much more boring than that. No. Hello.
Trying to do something cool for you. Trying to do something cool. and fresh from the hardest job in the world, being a father.
The band's back together.
Yeah.
Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Okay, and I'm not going to make mine big because you don't want to see this big, but I'm Wookiee Steve. And tonight we're going to be talking about all things Ahsoka
Hooray.
and Dave Filoni and Disney Plus and everything else involved with that. Before we get started, though, just to remind you that you can find all the news from us at StarWarsReporter.com. You can also follow us on all the social media that the kids like to do, except for Facebook. That's for old people, apparently. And, of course, this video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's get this party started.
Damn. Steve.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I should have moved everything around. But also, too, I just want to say a happy anniversary to Todd and his wife. That was last weekend.
It was last weekend. 28 years. She's
happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, she's put up with me for 28 years. So
yeah. So here's a picture of Todd and his wife.
Wow.
I didn't get a picture in time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You haven't aged a day.
Not a day.
6 years of art school.
Well, money well spent, Wookiee Steve. Money well spent.
Thank you. I mean, by that I mean I just looked online and did one of the YouTube courses, and they said I did a great job. And let's give a nice happy birthday to the one and only Captain Tiva himself.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Happy.
Yeah, so go to his social media. He's on Instagram and Twitter, and wish him a happy birthday there for all 6,000 of you watching right now.
And great Canadian talent, too, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with promoting some great Canadian talent. For American fans who don't know, he was on a very popular show here in Canada on CBC called Kim's Convenience, and he was quite spectacular in it. So yeah. I know for me, when I first saw him popping up in Mandalorian, it was like, whoa, it was pretty exciting, I must say.
So every Canadian was going, "It's Mr. Kim."
It's
Yeah,
Mr. Kim,
every
please.
Canadian was doing that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Yeah.
And then there was me who was like, who is this man? The non-Canadian member of this team.
I have to say this is such a different change, because for years when I was doing that other site and then this site started, I was the only Canadian. It was like me and all the Americans, and it was like, haha, you sound funny and you say A, and now look what's happened.
So I'm like your American, you know.
You're the token American.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
token American.
Now, to be fair, I still sound funny and say A, so but so let's get into it. The thing that really sparked, to get us doing the podcast was this, all the hundreds of trailers of Ahsoka, but there was that new one that came out, kind of a featurette called The New Star Wars Legacy. It's about a 7-minute video, and there's some cool video interview with Filoni and Rosario Dawson, Todd's favorite Kathleen Kennedy. And
Actually, she appeared on my boo heckle. Shouldn't hear me, but I had to do it.
But we'll take a look at that. I mean, we'll talk through it as well. But I like hearing how people in the shows talk and think, because there's nothing worse than listening to an interview of a star of a show and they're like, nah, I didn't really watch it, or I didn't this. I'm there for the paycheck to buy a house. I mean, that doesn't happen here. But I always, as I get older, I always get it in my head where if the actor or the director or the people involved, I just don't really care about it. It kind of sours me a little bit. That's why it's always seems like everyone doing a Star Wars thing are giant nerds, or they remember it from their childhood. So it always makes me feel a little better, even if the project isn't great. At least the people involved are like, oh, I used to play with the toys when I was a kid. So, but anyways,
except for Harrison Ford.
When I was a kid.
Harrison Ford's allowed to be a jerk.
Yeah, he's allowed to be the coolest one in the Star Wars universe. He can be a jerk. It's okay.
Well, that's his whole shtick, isn't it? That's what made him famous, is being the grumpy old man. Like, I don't even think he's acting anymore, but so
I will say it was really cool to see Rosario speak about the character in the way she did. Like, she just has the passion for that character, and to hear Dave Filoni say like she gets it, that for me, it's like now I have full confidence in Rosario. I mean, she killed it in The Mandalorian. We already knew she was going to be fantastic, but just to hear the way she talked about the character and to hear Filoni's take, being the creator of that character, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys.
Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if you guys remember when they were first talking about at the beginning, before Mandalorian, before they had cast Rosario Dawson, there was some talk about who they were going to cast. And you remember, like, Ahsoka is so tied up in Ashley Eckstein. I can't remember say her name right, but her character is so tied up in the one who voiced her. And I remember there was like a campaign to get her to play her, like live action. Like, everyone was so behind it because they couldn't imagine anyone else being her, because she just like embodies Ahsoka, like her her mannerisms, her smiles, like you see her at the cons and stuff like that, and she just like glows. And right. And that's kind of like one of those things, like when they cast Rosario Dawson, I was kind of a little bit like, oh no, it's not Ashley. But then it was like, and then it was the first interview or the first whatever, when I saw that she was like super pumped to do this and was training and excited. And it was like, okay, she has the physicality to actually pull this off. Like Ashley Eckstein is amazing, and she brought that character to life, and she did amazing things. But Rosario Dawson is actually the person who can pull off the fighting, the combat, the stunts, the physicality. And I think that's what's really cool, is you have these two amazing women who has actually brought this character to life and completely. But well,
and she's got a good resume too, right? Like, everything she's done, she's pulled off really well. Like, She played a major character in Sin City and pulled that off. She played a major character in the Marvel series on Netflix with Daredevil. And she was and she was actually the same character in all the series. And she did a really good job with that too, right? So, not surprising there goes somebody who like her to pull off something like this. And exactly, I'll be the first to say I was not a Ahsoka fan the first couple seasons of Clone Wars. And actually, she made me stop
We
watching.
can't be friends, Todd.
Well, no, but hear me out. But doing this podcast, everybody said you have to keep with it. And then, she turned into a character who's not so annoying, right? Like the first season, she was just annoying all the time.
Anakin was annoying.
Okay,
Anyway.
okay. I'm just saying she
That was him. That was Anakin.
I was losing it, but again, her character development was fascinating. And obviously you can see it was set up the way it was to be a person who you don't really care for too much, and then she becomes somebody who you do, right?
Yeah.
That's Filoni's little approach, what he did. I actually saw something really neat on not Netflix, YouTube today. There's a Filoni and the voice actress, you said her name, but I can't remember her name.
Eccleston.
Where he kept, apparently during the seasons,
I'm going to get it right one time.
During the seasons, Filoni kept teasing that Ahsoka was going to die this season, and she's going to die by like this, and would get her freaked out every time. But then he always changed his mind, apparently. So,
well, he used to wear a shirt that said "Ahsoka lives" to the cons. Like every time he fake killed Ahsoka, because remember she fake dies in Clone Wars. Oh, spoilers!
Yeah.
And then she fake dies in Rebels at the end of season 2. Remember, there's the whole thing where they're on Manticore or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Ahsoka's dead!" And then he would pop up wearing an Ahsoka lives shirt. Dave Filoni is the biggest Ahsoka troll. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Just the whole with that kind of stuff, it was people would freak out and he'd be like, ha ha ha, it's fine. Or maybe it's not. I don't.
He is never going to voluntarily kill her. Isn't
No,
that what
I don't
George
think so.
Lucas thought? He thought after the first season that she should die.
Yes.
And then then Filoni went down to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil to keep her alive. he kind of begged for her life and he let it go. So, and it's interesting.
I think there was this video, wasn't it, where they were talking about how originally Filoni's idea was she would be a Padawan of a different Jedi, and then George is the one that said no, he's going to be Anakin's. She was going to be Anakin's Padawan. I thought it was a kind of neat little thing.
I like that a lot too, that it was just George came in and said, no, she's Anakin's. He's like, well, Anakin doesn't have one. He's like, Anakin has a Padawan. It's like, well, if anyone's going to rewrite canon, it's going to be George, I guess.
Totally. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought that was cool that was George's idea, sort of, and then Filoni kind of fleshed her out.
Well, even the simple fact, you got to think for Filoni's creating this character is going to be a sub character, and all of a sudden she becomes a big character with one man's thought of George Lucas saying no, Anakin and Padawans. She goes from a sub character to a major character right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
totally.
And I wonder what that
was. And now
easily
one of the biggest characters in Star Wars.
Well, and that's what they talk about lots, right? The fact that she's probably one of the most fleshed out characters of all characters because she's had how many episodes through a whole entire TV series where everybody else has 3 movies, right? So you can really do deep dives on these characters when you have these TV series.
Well, she was a really useful tool in Clone Wars too, where she was she could go off on Anakin's on these adventures, but then she also had bottle episodes where she was just with Padme. Right? She would get sent off to protect Padme. So they'd have their own little adventures together too. So she would be this I don't want to say plot device, but she almost she would be this consistent thread through the story where you have Anakin, Obi-Wan off doing their thing, but then you also have this episode where you get to see all of the stuff about Padme and you get to flesh out her story a little bit, but you have Ahsoka's with her. So you know what I mean? She was kind of that really cool, consistent thread that got to be through.
Mm-hmm. And even in the end, it's almost like she was what you would have hoped Anakin would have been, right? She sort of went through the trial. She was a Jedi, right? But she became disillusioned with the Jedi Order because of everything that happened in her character arc. But she still remained that good character, the moral good in a sense, where the Jedi became disillusioned. So, in my mind, it's almost like what I would have hoped Anakin would have become. But of course, that was The Apprentice. which is
Well,
super cool.
Yeah, well, another really interesting thing that like you get to see because of Ahsoka is you get to see the clone's redemption because of her, because all the other Jedis are dead, right? You know, so if you didn't have Ahsoka, you wouldn't get to see Old Man Rex, and you wouldn't get to see all of those
Mhm.
guys get to basically apologize and atone for what happened, you know, Order 66 kind of thing. So because of like their affection for the Jedi, her affection for the clones, and like you get to see that later on. And that's what's really cool, because she was there and then she's still around, and like she's the only one who's still around. That's kind of a cool thing about her too.
I think what really helped Ahsoka and her character develop was kind of the passion, to say lightly, that Dave Filoni had for the character. Whereas I felt George Lucas loves his characters, but it felt like he took a different approach, right? Like once the story was done, it was done for him with the character. Where I think since her creation, I mean, she's been inserted into a lot of different areas, right? Like, you know, if they do like like in The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, right? She was in that when they because The Mandalorian took over 2 or 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, there was so much,
right?
like
No, Luke was in the Book of Fett.
Yes, but Rosario Dawson was there, or sorry, Ahsoka was there.
Oh, she was. That's right. Yeah.
Remember the little shirt? He brings them the shirt and all that kind of stuff. So, here's an unpopular opinion, just to be devil's advocate.
Well, here we go.
Let's go.
I thought it would be kind of a dramatic thing if, you know how Ahsoka walked away from the Jedi, right? She's like, see you later, you guys are a bunch of jerks, I'm out of here. But what if she didn't leave like that? And what if, due to politics or something that Anakin would blame the Jedi for, she did die like Lucas wanted after the first season? And that would have been another tipping point for Anakin to be like, these guys are jerks. You could even have had Palpatine coming in saying, oh, your Padawan, that really sucks, blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, it was because of Palpatine that she ended up dying. So, because there was one interview where George Lucas, he had said, from what I can remember, his whole reasoning for thinking that she should have been died after the first or second season, whatever it was because, or someone had said, if she just continued to live on, there was no point for Luke. If you agree with that. I just thought it would be more dramatic. And so send your hate mail to contact at Star Wars Reporter.
Here's an interesting thing, though, because that actually, you might be onto something there, because they didn't kill her off. If you remember towards the end of Clone Wars, when they do, it's like a 3-part series or something like that, where they kill Obi-Wan. Remember, he goes deep undercover, but they don't tell Anakin. It's like a Cad Bane like mini series, a 3-part thing, and like it wrecks Anakin. Remember, he goes through the whole thing where he like almost goes full dark side because like he can't understand how this could have happened, like all and they don't tell him what's going on and the whole thing, and it like basically shakes his faith in the Jedi. It was the whole thing. But I think that maybe that story getting written was maybe because they realized how powerful it would have been if they had killed off Ahsoka, and so they wanted to give Anakin some kind of...
Oh, we lost you.
Oh, we lost your voice.
Hello?
There you are.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, it's because I hit my microphone. I'm sorry. Talking with my hands too much.
You were saying your final point, it went silent. So you have suspense.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just saying that maybe that's where that episode came from. That's maybe that's the idea behind it, or I just as a thought that, you know.
But but I guess if that happened, then we wouldn't have any more Ahsoka. So, but like I said, all hate mail can go to contact@StarWarsReporter.com. But anyways, so let's just start playing this, and we can discuss it as we go, or whatever, and talk more of Ahsoka.
Always two there are. No more, no less.
I'm already gonna
A
cry.
master and an apprentice.
Star Wars always has these great master-apprentice relationships.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You see that handing down of mastery, the teaching, the developing, the growing.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Idea of apprenticeship, the need for those two groups to come together in order to pass down the knowledge and to help save the world. In the case of Star Wars.
When I left you, I was but a learner. Now, I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
Those life lessons are what make these characters some of the most iconic characters worldwide.
The war is just beginning, and I will not be the last Jedi.
All of that wisdom gets passed down, over those generations. We have Qui-Gon Jinn, who's the master of Obi-Wan, who's the master of Anakin Skywalker. And by being trained by Anakin, Ahsoka was part of that legacy as well.
So Carrie Beck, I think she was on Rebels, right? Wasn't she one of the executive producers on Rebels, I think? That's where I remember her name from.
Right.
Well, this is a continuation of Rebels anyway, isn't it? Really?
I think so. If you look at the
Ahsoka,
cast
the
list,
character that Dave Filoni created and worked
Last
with
trailer made it sure look like it's
George Lucas on in the Clone Wars.
yeah, if you look at the cast list, like they have a casting for like Sabine, Hera, and Ezra, I think too. Which I guess depending on like where it is in the timeline, is it like after Ezra like sailed off, or is it before?
Well, I think it is. I think it's many years after.
It's
so
several
Ezra
years
comes
after.
back from the void or wherever he went.
Well, he was on.
We don't know. They were still searching.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think
I wish they would have continued that, like either in the animated or flesh this out in this. But it seems like it's like, oh, back when we did that. So they have 8 episodes to do that in, or 12?
I guess so. I blocked out so much of the finale of Rebels. Like, it broke my heart so much that like I just psychologically like I don't remember it.
Such a good finale. Oh my gosh.
It is, but it was like
that's
it broke my heart so much that I was like, I'm just gonna forget that happened.
That was the big thing though. They were like trying to continue the search for Ezra. So like in my mind, when Ahsoka's like, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? A big part of that is we find Thrawn, we find Ezra.
Yeah.
Because they were on that ship together when it jumped into hyperspace. We see a brief look at Ezra in one of the trailers as a hologram.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They have a lot of the characters. Maybe we'll get to see, and this is just speculation now. You mentioned Hera. Maybe we'll get to see Hera and Kanan's son too, because that takes place around the same time too.
See, that's another thing from the finale that I was like, I can't. It hurts too much. I can't think about it. I forgot.
Oh, the whole Kanan thing. Kanan was one of my favorite Jedi.
Oh,
like,
that
so
I
good.
know. Oh, he was so good. He was
to
so
see
good.
his like I'm getting off track now. To see his,
I know. Now let's talk about
in
Rebels now.
Bad Batch too. Like to have his origin in the Bad Batch was a really cool touch.
Yeah.
Classic Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's the thing I've always said. The most solid thing in Star Wars, one of the most solid things in Star Wars has been the animation. Like the storytelling, the art has always improved and gotten better and better and better. It's solid, which is sad now that they kind of shut down that animation studio for Lucasfilm in Singapore. So like 300 people are going to lose their jobs, and like to me, that was their bankable asset. Was if the TV shows are failing, if the movies aren't working out, the animation has always been there, right? Tales of the Jedi, the Bad Batch, since the sale to Disney, like these things have been solid, and it's who knows what they'll do if they're going to bring it back to the US.
Is this? I didn't hear this announcement. Something that's happened recently.
Yeah.
It's
I
like within
had
the
the
past
article
couple
up.
days, I think.
Okay,
Oh,
that's well, probably lots to do with the writing strike and all that sort of stuff too, right? So there's everything's going to be getting hit pretty hard with this writing strike and the actor strike. So I'm pretty sure they all fall under the same thing, right? So there's no productions happening, they're going to shut things down, right? So like, even like Vancouver, like here, there's lots of soundstage studios are just going belly up because there's no productions at all, right? So it's it's tough. I'm sure once things get resolved, things could come back in production. But
Well,
you're
I mean,
right,
they're like shutting it down, and it's been there. They've been doing it for 20 years. Like
Oh, I
it's
see.
gone, done. Like that's sad. So what does that mean for the animation? Right now, Filoni's going to jump and start doing live action. Like I said, whenever we would talk about something, if we liked it or didn't like something, I'd always say, well, there's always the animation. Why don't they do an animated fill in the blanks?
Yeah.
Because then Filoni could just do it. The animation crew, they just know what they're doing. They're like nerds that just sit in a room playing with Star Wars toys and writing really good scripts. That's what it feels like.
Well, hopefully, the animation's been so strong because it's had a person who's been the flagship steering it, right?
Mhm.
So, hopefully, and now you have Favreau and Filoni with the Mandalorian doing some good stuff, right? So, hopefully, they're seeing that that they have a good track record. Maybe that's why they're doing that, to move them into the live action stuff, and hopefully, possibly resurrect their cinematic storytelling too, right? So back in the theaters again.
Well, this could be like a profitability test for Filoni too. Like he's had the reins for the animation for so long. He's dabbled in live action, with Favreau. Now he's taken the reins, and I mean they're promoting this huge, big time, right? Like it's all Ahsoka right now. So that could be a good thing to set Filoni up, and just, for Kathleen Kennedy with her, with shutting, or Disney, I guess overall, Lucasfilm shutting down different departments, they could be testing to see how profitable he can be on Disney Plus, and if they can continue to give him a more serious senior leadership role within the department too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting I do and would not want to be Dave Filoni right now, because it'd be awesome to have his, like, every nerd's dream, which was his nerd dream, was to be working at Lucasfilm. But the pressure that's on his shoulder now, where I hear people like, Ahsoka's such a huge character, and I think Disney and Lucasfilm haven't had a lot of major hits lately, and I think a lot of fans are breathing down the neck of Dave Filoni right now. So but I don't know how they could. It'd be impossible for this not to work out, right? Because you got the character people, like you have the showrunner. I guess that's what he would be, the showrunner, and I think he's directing episode 1 and 5 or something.
I think it's more. I thought he was on more than 2.
Was it? Okay, that's what I was just hearing.
Was it the
today
first
they were
2
talking.
in a row and then a couple more?
Yeah,
No,
there
he's
was
doing like episode 1 and episode 5.
Oh.
And then so we'll get 1 and 2, which is episode 1 is 54 minutes. The next one's like 45 minutes. And then everyone's going crazy because episode 3 is 35 minutes, not including credits.
Well, that same thing happened in Mandalorian too. We got
absolutely.
2 long ones, and then there's a short one, and we were like, how are they gonna tell that much story? And it turned out being one of the best episodes.
Right. And that's what I love with the factor on Disney Plus, the fact that story dictates the length of each episode, right? So sometimes you get done 35, you get done 35, next one will be 50, who cares, right? Like, as long as it's effective storytelling, that's all I care about, right? So it's nice they have freedom to play with that runtime.
And they're going to be released on Wednesdays, I think. Is that what they are?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's Wednesdays. That's what they always
It'll
do,
be
is
interesting to see how the fandom reacts to character development in Ahsoka, because it's been, aside from the Clone Wars animated movie and season 1 of Clone Wars for Wookiee Steve, but like her reception has been, generally increasingly positive over the series over time, right? So it'd be interesting to see if the fandom reacts to her character development in Ahsoka the way the initial reaction to the prequel trilogy was, which was very negative, and then over time, more positive. So I wonder if they're going to give Filoni the George Lucas treatment from the prequels or not.
Yeah, it's hard to say nowadays.
Well, it's so interesting right now. Like, I don't know the exact numbers of how well Andor did, but we all agree that Andor is some of the best Star Wars storytelling that came out, right?
I didn't watch Andor.
Oh, you didn't?
I
Wow.
know, I haven't yet. I just never got around to it. Oh, don't yell at me. Is it so
okay?
good?
Well,
you should watch it. It's
thanks
fantastic.
for tuning in, Kylo
okay,
Jen.
so
We're
we
gonna
have
have to
to
let you
shut
go.
I'm
this
so
down
sorry.
right now so that
Okay,
Kylo
I'd
Jen can
forgotten
watch
about
Andor.
Andor. Oh my gosh, I need to go back and watch it.
It's very, 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 very good.
Oh.
tell you
I
what,
don't know. Again, it was struggling to get the viewership that they're hoping
The struggle
for,
to
right?
get the viewership because of people
it was
like
low.
me who forgot to watch it. Oh shoot.
It was.
Yep.
You know what? The complaint and
Sorry.
why the viewership dropped off after the second episode was because of how slow it was. And I think we had talked about it before. And what I thought is, Andor is made for really, really hardcore fans, like hardcore fans that'll sit and do that Leonardo thing. Point. Oh my God, there's that. There's lots of these like look at here's and moments that people who are like huge fans will point out, like so and so wore that in this movie and that's referring to this book. But if you're just some person who likes sci-fi or fantasy and you just want to kick back and watch some pew pew lasers and stuff, it is very much not the show. It
does get there, but it takes 3 episodes.
It's 3 episodes and then 2 of nothing and then 1 episode and then what I mean? Like I can understand
so much story and tension that's happening. It's like
No, I love that.
Much narrative intensive.
Yes,
I love that, and I had every intention of going back and watching it. I just wanted to wait till more episodes were uploaded, and then because I was busy, and then I was like, and I completely forgot. So yeah, so send your hate mail to Steve.
You guys hear something?
Kylo Jen at Contact Us Star Wars Reporter. Do you know how much they came out that the series cost? They spent $250 million. And I'm thinking, how did they spend that much money on this show? Like, are they embezzling money? Is that what happens in Hollywood?
It's got to be on that meteor sequence in episode 3 alone. Like that whole sequence with the TIE fighters, that probably would have cost them dang near $200 million of that budget.
But it's like
the sets.
It's like a Marvel movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I promise by the next time we talk, I will have watched it.
It's 12 episodes of good. I thought it was fantastic storytelling, and unlike any other Star Wars stuff we've seen before. It can be dark. It's good.
They flesh out so much narratively of like everything, like imperial bureaucracy, behind the scenes rebellion, moving money, getting funds. It's so narratively deep that I can see why, like Steve, like you said, a lot of people were disappointed in the lack of like pew pew, but for like hardcore fans, it fleshed out so much within the universe. It was fantastic.
The final episode alone, with all those extras they had in the streets, that would have been a lot of the budget too. That was massive.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm going by, there's a guy that works in the marketing department where I work at my day job. And he would pop me up in kind of this messenger we have in the office from upstairs. And he would be like, so what did you think of the episode of Andor? And I blah, 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 like the nerd stuff. Oh, there was that really cool thing where we got to see like all the stuff that I was talking about. And then I'm like, what did you think? And he's like, meh. Because he also, just goes to the movies. He remembers it as a kid. He, he wants to see the action. And it's like, it's so heavy in the politics, the storytelling, which is fine because we've talked about it. But for the casual or non-fan who just wants to see, some kind of a movie or a TV show, you can understand why. And that's where I started going, oh, okay, I forgot about that.
Which is why I think Ahsoka is going to have a broader appeal, like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mandalorian does, that kind of thing, where it's like you drop in, you're in the middle of rebels and action and fight scenes and intrigue, and like I think that Ahsoka is probably going to be more of that wide appeal kind of thing.
I will say, you can make a strong argument, an easy argument, that Andor has probably the best acting of any series, possibly any movie. Like just acting chops, the performance and the delivery.
Well,
you could
that's the
say
solid
has
actors. Oh yeah,
Yes.
amazing.
Agreed.
Everyone.
Agreed.
yeah.
But,
I
hey.
mean, we could talk about that further, but
I
you know,
feel really
Jen hasn't
guilty,
watched
guys.
it.
I do. I feel horrible. Like you have sufficiently guilted me.
So, and then you'll have to write 100 lines on the chalkboard. I will not procrastinate on Star Wars projects.
Now we know why they're shutting down the animation studio, because Jen didn't watch.
Sorry.
Jen's fault.
Your 10-page essay on Andor is due Friday.
Oh, Professor Slobo over here.
Yeah.
Forgot about
Jeez.
it.
Get
Wow.
flashbacks.
It'll be a good watch for you, I promise.
I know. I am looking forward to watching it now that I remember that I need to watch it.
So hopefully, Ahsoka, like we were saying, like I think doesn't have a better appeal for the pew pew or zing zing the lightsabers, right? So hopefully they get some good attention to it, and and brings it back to some viewers. And although I'm pretty sure people who watch Andor, I've heard of a Star Wars series mentioned more on late night TV than Andor, because I know all late night people were talking about how good it was, and if you're not watching, you should be watching it. So it got lots of great press. So hopefully this goes well too. Because again, the more people watch, the more we're going to get, right? So
I will watch this one.
The more people that watch,
there'll be
Kylo
lightsabers. There's gonna be lightsabers and Jedi, right? That's what I think will make it exciting, right? There'll be some. Well, the ship, if Hera's in it, we're going to see the Ghost, and it's like
Chopper.
One of my favorite ships.
Oh.
You know what? It might be my second favorite ship. Is the Ghost.
Ghost is pretty cool.
The Ghost is cool. It's a cool ship.
The Ghost.
Cool design.
So,
do you have one, Todd? Oh, I knew it.
And there it is, the Micro
Look
Machines.
at that.
Oh no, that's the Hot Wheels one.
Yeah.
Oh, and you have one too. I'm the only one over here.
I don't have one.
Couple
either.
of losers down here without.
Steve's much better than mine is, but yes.
Yeah.
No, mine's like. I think mine is broken. I got it at the auction, Ryan's auction, and I got it for. It's from the game, from the tabletop game where you battle.
Yeah.
And it was in the box, and I picked it up from Ryan's for like $5, and I think they're like $50 in the store Canadian, so $8 American. And it doesn't have the stand or any of the cards, the stuff where you play with it. I don't care, that's fine. So, but anyways,
Steve, I've known you since you're 5. I'm not surprised that you have a Star Wars vehicle that's broken. Just want to say it.
Shots fired.
His X-Wing fighter with 3 wings gets a new one, has 3 wings.
Yeah, did you find the 4th wing when you went home there, Steve?
Oh man, I wish I this summer my family and I went back to the town that Todd and I grew up with, and I hadn't been back in 33 years, and I went to the backyard where I would always talk about. There was this creek we called the creek, and it was over sand there as well, and I would bring that X-Wing and Farm Boy Luke, and play
Bullseye
like
Womp
a
Rat.
ADD, undiagnosed,
Bullseye Womp
unmedicated
Rat,
ADD boy. And at one point, the wing didn't break off fully; it was just broken, and it was loose. And then when you would hit the R2 to make the wings go, into the X,
Oh, I used to have one of those. Mm-hmm.
just the one side would, because the other one was broken, right? So. And that's what happened. And then I got another one the next Christmas, and a little while later, I did the exact same thing. So, but it just came off. So I had a 3-wing X-wing. Luke had a hard time in life.
Yeah, not fully in attack mode, hey.
But yeah, so where were we at? Yeah,
Ahsoka.
I think
Back to Ahsoka.
it was the whole. Yes. So here, let me get back to it. again, I did watch this a couple of times, and Legacy. And look at this. Look at Filoni without his hat on.
I know, right?
In this,
Was
it's
yeah.
so funny. I just find that funny.
Yeah.
He's got like he looks so young then. Looks so young then.
I love the sketches he was drawing too, Ahsoka. How he's fleshing her out in the early days.
Originally,
Yeah.
we didn't really know, exactly what the Clone Wars was.
Yes.
We made up our own little band of characters. There was a character that was a Jedi, and there was a Padawan, and thought we'll put them on adventures. But George says, well,
such a
and this
fanboy.
character, and he points to the Padawan we had, and he says, let's give Anakin Skywalker a Padawan. And I was like, Anakin doesn't have Padawan. And he just looked at me and said, Anakin has a Padawan. And that was basically it. That's how Ahsoka came about.
Love that.
We cast Ashley Eckstein to be the voice of the character. And she's fantastic in the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Ahsoka is one of the most well-developed characters in Star Wars, period.
She is the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker.
Sorry, can I just say, yeah, I mean, she has to be, as far as I know, one of the most developed characters in all of Star Wars, right? Like, I know that other characters, like Vader and stuff like that might be, through the books and comics, but it just seems like she's had a lot of, kind of like the Dave Filoni love has been attached to her for so many years. And I'd always thought it would have been cool, like, especially I'm going back to the animation divisions, if they would have dipped into other characters and did like the side stories, like between episode 4 and 5, what happened, between episodes 5 and 6, what happened. Like they did all these kind of adventures, but I don't think Lucas was into that kind of saturation of TV shows. He's like, I made a movie, you'll see another one in a few years. I made a movie, like, aside from the books and the comics and games and stuff, right? He just wasn't out there saying, well, we need to get another series out. There wasn't a thing. But now that the animation is gone, maybe, it's too bad, because I would have loved to have seen that, like adventures of, Luke and R2, or adventures of this character or that character. Would have been really cool to kind of dip in different genres. And the easiest way, as a person who doesn't know how to draw or know the process, that just seems to be the easiest way to get these stories out, is animation. But
I could be interesting point you bring up, Steve. Like, George Lucas wouldn't have been interested back then, because back then TV was not TV it is now, right? Like, so like most series on TV, unless it was a soap opera of some sort, didn't have a chronological timeline sort of thing, right? Where Three's Company, the characters, there's no character development. They're just, what I'm saying? So, like, right. Storytelling of the last probably 15, 20 years. Well, I guess X-Files was one of the first big ones that started, having a ongoing storyline with a bunch of fillers. But, and then 24 came out. So that's where it's kind of revolutionized television. Now television's taken seriously when it comes to effective storytelling, right? So everything's changed since back then, where you can actually do what they're doing now, which is exciting for us fans.
Definitely.
All right. She is the only one that he is trained to be a Jedi.
This young teenage girl who was trained to be a keeper of the peace had to become a warrior worthy of standing next to the greatest Jedi of all time.
Dave's journey.
Ahsoka's story and her growth has mirrored my own. As you see my style of storytelling mature, the stories got more complex. It had grown to the point where I wanted to take what I was doing in animation and really see if I could get it to this type of storytelling that I'd grown up with in Star Wars. Mandalorian season 1 was a perfect place for me to experiment with my own creativity and style, but have a great backstop and support from collaborating with all these other extraordinary people.
You must reunite it with its own kind.
This is the way.
So when season 2 came around, I was like, for my episode, I was like, well, I'm going to do Ahsoka. I'm like, I just need to try this. Let's do it.
Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan sent me.
I hope it's about him.
for a character that has such depth and complexity. To bring that character to live action made a tremendous amount of sense.
Tell me what I want to know. Where is your master?
George visited the set when we were filming the lightsaber fight in the Japanese garden, season 2. And I think it was really encouraging of Dave stepping up to this role. And so George would turn to Kathy and myself and be proud of Dave.
How stressful
He
that
was
must have been.
Dave's teacher,
Oh my
and
gosh,
Dave was
I
his
would imagine.
apprentice.
Like, oh, there's George Lucas. Wonderful.
There are moments when I just stare at her and I'm just like, wow, she just looks like this thing I've drawn, but Sarah's done all the research. Like, she knows the character, but now she has to become it in a way that's never happened before.
The sort of people.
Hello?
Oh, did we cut out?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Hear me?
Yeah, I think we cut out there.
Is a little startling. I really love the transformation and really deep diving into who she is.
Rosario Dawson is a powerful actress, and she loves this character. I think everything about who Ahsoka is just brought to life in a way that almost nobody else could.
She not only gets a character, but she gets like the.
That's frustrating.
So, okay. Can everyone see? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can
think
see
my,
it's
I don't know
frozen.
if it's my internet or not. Yeah. No, I just paused it there. So, going back to what I was saying before, I always get more invested in a project, I guess, in my old age when the star is passionate about what they're doing, because there's been other stuff that I've done where I went to a press junket for the Hobbit movies, the first Hobbit movie in New York City, and some of the actors, you could tell that it was a paycheck, and it made it kind of feel icky a little bit. Like it's because I'm a nerd, right? Like I'm sure the rest of the people there were like, whatever. Like they just couldn't care less because they were like real reporters, and I was a con man who made people think that I was a reporter. Well, technically I was, but it was for a nerd site. But and then you could tell the difference, right? Like Ian McKellen, through and through, loves the story and everything else, right? And you could feel that, right? And there was other people that were just like, yeah, I'm here because I'm obligated to be here at the press junket. So ask your dumb question and I'll answer it, kind of a deal. So this is why when you hear someone like her talk and she's into it, and you know what I mean, and the love for George Lucas, that's always a bonus for me. So if everyone can just remember kind of the maker, it makes it all that much better. So
true. I did have a thought about Ahsoka, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it while you were talking. But just something to throw out there to think about, because you know how I love to talk about how the Jedi should have been eliminated, because my weird theories and my stuff that I know that I have talked about at great length. But I thought about this, like, what if this Filoni's like master plan here was that Ahsoka was like the one true Jedi, right? You know what I mean? Like, because she saw that it was corrupt and she walked away. What if that is the most Jedi thing to do? Like, what if like she is the most Jedi? You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know.
I think that's a pretty good thought, because the title of her episode was The Jedi in The Mandalorian, right? The title of her episode was The Jedi. And they refer to her as a Jedi, but she walked away before she was actually knighted to be a Jedi.
Because so she never got a military title, right? She never got that kind of thing.
Never got a military
title. So here's the other thing too,
she could be the Jedi.
The Jedi. And so here's another, because she walks to the edge, right? She walks to the precipice of the darkness and she always turns back from it. And that's the thing that makes her, I think, the truest Jedi, because I just recently watched, the reason I'm referencing this is I just recently watched the season 2 finale of Rebels, where she meets Vader and discovers that he's Anakin for the first time. And when she first meets him, she says something like, "Oh, I thought that you could have been my master, but I was so wrong. You're so cruel," or "My master could have never been you." And he says something about like, "Oh, I slaughtered Anakin," like, and she says, "Well, then I'll avenge him, or I'll get revenge for his death," or something like that. And he says, "Well, revenge isn't a very Jedi thing to do," or something like that. And she is like, "I'm no Jedi," and like ignites her sabers when she goes to fight him. Like, and so she's fighting him passionately, right? Like she's not fighting him like a Jedi, but she's not really fighting him like a Sith. But then at the end, when she cuts off the face mask and he says Ahsoka and the whole thing, like she immediately returns to that place of like true Jedi, kind of thing. So she does have those moments where she goes right to the edge, right? That right to the precipice of almost embracing the dark, but she turns back. Like Luke does. Like that's Luke's story, right? He goes right to the edge. He goes right to that facing his own inner demons, his own turmoil, but he comes back, and that's what makes him a Jedi. And I think that's Ahsoka's story as well. But
yeah, I always thought too that Qui-Gon was always that true Jedi, because I think he was always butting heads with the council because he had just different thoughts. To me it felt like he felt that the Jedi were kind of going down this political nonsense, and he kind of flowed with the Force, and he wasn't so rigid about it, and that's what put him at odds. And he never made a promotion because of it. And he probably didn't want it, which is why I kind of like the character, because he wasn't looking to. His path was true to wherever the Force took him, and if that wasn't sitting on a seat in the council, then he didn't care. So I always find that those characters are more appealing, right? The ones that are kind of stay true to it. And ever since you told us that thing about the Jedi started failing kind of when they took military roles and started wearing armor and leading troops, and I was like, yeah, that is true. Like, weren't they peacekeepers? And here they are, General who? Like, it's so weird to call a Jedi general,
right?
Or even Yoda fighting seemed kind of weird to me. Like he was more of the sensei and using the Force to stop things.
That's one of the reasons you probably like Kanan so much too, because Kanan, was abandoned as a Padawan before he grew up through that, right? So all of his training was still the core peacekeeper, right? He didn't grow up being militarized. He grew up with the whole Jedi or peacekeeper because he was a child still. They hadn't started to do the whole like you have to make the tough call, you have to lead your men, he didn't do any of that yet. He was still a child. So his way of trying to raise Ezra, his way of trying to use the Force, his way of interacting with the Force was very much of that childlike almost, I think, which made him true Jedi as well. So just
so do you remember the Jedi Path? This book here, it's really interesting you say that. So when you're reading it, it's supposed to be like an instructional, and there'll be notes in the corners making it look like different people have written, like different Jedi written notes in it because they've all shared the book, or it's very, very clever and stuff. And there's certain Jedi, like I always notice that there'll be messages from Luke saying, oh, but we should be this and we should be that. Like I always like that in here, where I find the Luke comments where they were talking about fighting forms, and he'd be in the corner reminding people that's not what the Force is all about, blah blah blah. And I just thought it was interesting. There was other people in there, like there's comments from Yoda saying, basically not to be a showboat and things like that. And it's that kind of thing that really changed it for me when I'm watching the Jedi with armor fighting with clone troopers, which they should have never done. Although it made for good stories in the animation.
We kind of see that correction on three different paths too, though. Like we see, of course, that with Luke, where he was trained by Obi-Wan and Yoda, who both, went through the downfall and had their corrections. And, Luke also forged his own path. We see that with Ahsoka, who was the Padawan of Anakin and who was disillusioned. We see that with Ezra, who was trained by Kanan. So we kind of see that, new generation of, I don't know if you want to say pure Jedi, but essentially like what the Jedi were supposed to be,
Right.
right? Before Palpatine had his way.
All this is doing is just adding fuel to my theory fire.
So
I'm gonna make it fit.
No,
you don't need to make it fit that much, though. That's the thing,
it's
though. It
actually
aligns
true.
so well.
Yep.
Right. It's like it absolutely
You heard it
makes
here
sense.
first, folks, on Star Wars Reporter.
Like years ago, you pointed that out.
I did many years
Like
ago.
6 years ago, you must have pointed that out to us. And we were like, oh.
I think that was like one of the first things I wrote for you. Like crazy person. Like, here, Steve, read my theories.
It's true. No, I never even thought of it. Because to me, it was like, oh, look, they're wearing some cool armor. That's kind of cool. They're running in with troops. I'm like, oh, yeah, isn't that not what the Jedi do? They just sit around feeling the Force and helping people. And I mean, they have lightsabers, but
just goes to show how good Palpatine was at manipulating people.
That's
like
true.
He changed their whole entire culture. He set them up to fail. Right?
Yeah.
Like he knew what was going on, right? He's the master manipulator to show how bad of a dude this guy was. He changed the whole entire system and just made them fail.
Yep.
That's a big mic drop for Palpatine, just right there.
It'd be interesting. Some, thoughts about the show coming up in how many days? Like a week from now?
It's like a week, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Be 2 weeks for me.
The whole question is, throughout all the movies and everything else, where has Ahsoka been? You know what I mean? And we didn't get that answered in The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett.
That's always been my little thing. But where was she?
I'm trying to remember the timeline of where her book is, because that's when she's building her lightsabers. She escapes from somewhere. It's somewhere Rebels, like prior to Rebels, is before she becomes Fulcrum. I think it's like right before Fulcrum or something like that is where that book takes place. But I'm struggling to remember the book. Like she's on a planet, she's hiding from people. I think she's like helping people, but she can't really help them because she's trying to hide her identity. It's like
They kind of did that in Tales of the Jedi too, because like right at the end of Clone Wars, she kind of has to, her and Rex, they have to both sort of abandon their identities and go into hiding to fake their own deaths, essentially.
Yeah.
And then again, she gets pulled back in as Fulcrum, and we see that I think in one story where she takes out the Inquisitor.
And she was acting as a farmer on some farmer planet or something. That Inquisitor comes.
Yeah.
He was awesome. He started burning the place down. He was amazing.
Yeah, that was cool. But again,
it's
she
slightly
gets
awkward
sort of
with the
pulled
story, though,
back
isn't
in.
it? It's slightly awkward with the story because she's working as Fulcrum and all this kind of other kind of stuff, but the rebellion was happening, right? So you have the leadership, which was like, Leia, and then you have like the main core, but
that would have militarized her again, though, right? She would have been fighting for somebody again,
right?
Like that's kind of the whole thing, right? That's
Leia. No, because when that story, Leia would have been a child.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right, when Order 66 came up, she was they were just born.
Right, but I'm talking about during, the original trilogy, right? When the rebellion was going, Anakin was Darth Vader, Death Star, the whole bit.
But my guess is like Ahsoka left trying to find Ezra, right? And Thrawn.
Well, hold on. That's what remember when they went back and did the new Clone Wars ending? The remember the Filoni episodes? She goes to Mandalore and fights Darth Maul. That's right as the Empire is falling. That's right as it all happens. That's Order 66 happens while she's on Mandalore fighting Maul. Remember?
I haven't seen
clones...
it. They just taken Mandalore.
Hey, Mrs. Andor, slow down, Mrs. Andor, slow down.
Anyway,
they just
so
taken
Order
over
66,
Mandalore.
She's with clones when Order 66 happens. I think,
Maul.
and then there's the whole thing because she's on the ship with them, and then she survives it, and then there's the whole thing. Remember the ship? Like she goes, yeah. There's a whole thing, and then Vader like tries to hunt her down. So they do explain what happens. Like she disappears, she comes back. She's with clones during Order 66. She fights Maul, and then that's when she like goes off into the mist, but she lets Vader think that she's dead. she lets Vader think that the clones killed her there, like during Order 66.
Mm-hmm. She
Because
essentially, like, they made it
yeah.
look like she went into hiding like Obi-Wan.
Well, no,
Right.
no, because remember Vader shows up at the planet and he sees like her lightsabers or whatever, like that
Sabers,
kind of thing. Yeah, and he thinks she's dead,
Mhm.
and that's the whole thing. Because she wants everyone to think that she's dead or something like that, and so that's why. And then she takes off.
But then she
Yeah.
just like takes off and goes into hiding for.
But I think that's when her book starts. I think her book starts from
I see.
there.
I
Okay.
see.
And then when she's in hiding on the planet with the book, there's an Inquisitor that shows up, and I think that's where you have that mini series and all that kind of stuff that shows up. And then so eventually that's when you get to Fulcrum. So I think there is like pretty much all of it is filled in. Because then you get Fulcrum, you get Rebels, then you get Mandalorian, then you get, you kind of know where she is with that. But I guess you don't know what happens you don't know her true end really, because Tarogas can live like hundreds of years, I guess. Tarogas. How do you say her race?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why she still looks so young.
Togruta?
Right.
Something like that. But yeah, I mean, her little tails are only like here. Like Shakti's were like.
Oh, really?
Here.
They
So,
keep growing.
like,
Right.
Yeah, she's got time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking like Anakin is going to be. They're going to do another something flashback. Is she
I
going to?
saw
Because they're
Hayden
doing
Christensen's
kind of like
on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing like Heir to the Empire, right? They're kind of.
Oh, Thrawn's in it. Yeah.
Looks like he's
Heir
going
to
to
the
switch
Empire.
it up and change the story of Heir to the Empire or adapt it or something like. So what's that time thing?
The World Between Worlds?
The World Between Worlds. Is that how we're going to see Anakin because of that? Is she just going to have flashbacks to see,
there's a
Hayden
lot of
Christensen?
speculation as to what his role is going to be, and we could really see anything because we got a Clone Wars flashback in Obi-Wan, which was cool, but we also saw him in Vader's suit too, which was cool. But I mean, he also came back as a Force ghost too, so that's not off the table either.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing stuff where they're saying they might have them fight, which, is interesting because it guarantees she's going to beat Anakin if they fight, or it's going to be the what ifs. Because isn't that how the World Between Worlds? It's not really time travel, isn't it? Like what ifs, or it's kind of like all these different like multi-universes
I think it's just
or
going to be
something.
flashbacks. Because there are flashbacks, like, so what happened right before Order 66 in the Clone Wars, like last episodes, whatever they went back and did.
Right.
She does see him as Anakin right before she goes to Mandalore. So
Mhm.
they
Okay.
do have a moment like where she comes, because she's gone, right? She left the
Right.
Jedi Order, she disappears. She comes back for a minute and sees Anakin for just a second. Like he's on his way.
It's right before episode 3, so they run off
Yeah.
to save Chancellor Palpatine because he's
Yeah.
captured by Grievous. So it's like right before episode 3.
So they have like a thing like he says like, I'm so glad I got to see you, kind of thing, and then he takes off with Obi-Wan and she takes off with her clones to go to Mandalore, kind of thing. So they do get to see each other at almost this age, kind of thing, where she's
Okay.
like almost fully an adult and he is just right before Vader. So if they do a flashback, there was a couple moments right there where they were on the same ship right before he turns into Vader. So
Okay. All right. Yeah, it'll be interesting how much they're going to use. I didn't think they used Hayden Christensen enough or a lot in
never enough.
Obi-Wan. He's actually going to be there at Fan Expo.
Really?
That's cool.
In Toronto. So
He's such a cutie.
I haven't. He's so expensive.
Yeah.
He's so expensive. He's like, they even. I mean, it is what it is. It's just like this much money for the autograph. If you want him to say something on it, it costs extra, up to 8 words. If you want him to address you in an X amount of words, it's that much more. And
wow,
and then if you want him to sign like merchandise, it's way more. And I understand why. It's because
I think you're.
That's why. The rare times I've gotten autographs, they always go, do you want me to make it out? And I always go, yes, put my name on it. And then they always lighten up because I'm not going to like turn around and sell it.
Yeah.
Because I can't sell it if it says to Big Daddy. Thanks for that's the name.
We need to start a GoFundMe so we can film Hayden Christensen saying, "You're listening to the Star Wars Reporter podcast."
There you go.
Oh, would he? I wonder if he would say that. God damn.
GoFundMe. We need a link.
I don't
Does he
know.
do cameos? Like the cameo things? Can we hire him?
Oh, does he do
Hire
that?
Hayden Christensen for an afternoon?
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I don't know how cameos work. I've never done one.
Yeah, there's a few. Do you know who's going to be there? Ashley is going to be there.
Yeah.
Matt Lanter.
Oh, he's so cute.
Yeah.
And who's the other one?
Is it
He's the
Sam
voice of,
Witwer? Because that's
Obi-Wan.
like the trifecta
No,
there. Oh,
it's
I love
not
Sam
Witwer. It would be.
It's
sick
not
if it was
Witwer.
I love him so much. He's another one that loves his character. He's another one like the jokes that he makes
is a
and things like that.
giant nerd.
I know I love him so much.
That's why I always say that when I see him, and I'm like, I always point out to my wife, I'm like, see that guy? Look at that handsome guy. He's one of us.
He is.
He's a nerd, you know. That's why it's
Huge
like
nerd.
Henry Cavill. It's the same thing. I'm like, look at Superman.
Yep.
He's a nerd. He'd be at home playing video games instead of going out.
Are we nerds or
He
I know
plays
Star Wars
40K.
Theory had a
He's
big-
like like top tier nerd.
He is top. You know what? He did an interview. He was saying he almost didn't make the audition for Superman
Because he
and
was
he was going to
rating.
blow it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't want to. And then who made him? Someone made him. They're like, you got to
Yeah.
go. So he did, and he got it. And then one time he didn't do something because he was building a computer. He'd rather do
Oh
that.
no, he live streamed like the computer build. It was
Yes,
fun.
there was that. He's such a nerd.
I don't know. I didn't watch.
With his huge biceps.
Sure.
Listen.
That's how he builds a computer. He holds it and he's like doing it. Yeah. Wow. So
I know
yeah,
Star Wars Theory for a while there, a couple of weeks ago, was on his big rants about possibly Sam Witwer showing up in Ahsoka as an Inquisitor. But I don't know. I'm not. Slowly, Star Wars Theory is kind of falling out of my grace. So I don't know.
Oh, I hope he does. That'd be fun.
I really like
I
him.
would like
I
to
don't
see
know.
Sam Witwer in live action in Star Wars. I think it would be great.
That'd be so cool.
One of my favorite games of all time, Force Unleashed.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
Unreal.
Yeah.
He actually
He's done live action. He was in Smallville. He was
Mhm.
Doomsday in Smallville, I think.
Yeah, and he was in was it Being Human? Or Almost
Oh
Human?
yeah,
One of those
that
vampire
was like
shows way back.
there was like it was like a ghost, a werewolf, and a something like our
Yeah, and a
roommate or
vampire,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that show, and then it's hard to believe how much of a nerd he is. He actually, I saw a video where he corrected Dave Filoni on something,
Yeah.
and he, what was it? And
It was about a flashback between Anakin and his mother or something. Or you
That's
like
right.
saying you would have loved to meet Padme, and he corrected him and said they already met
Yeah.
when
that's funny.
in
And then
episode
Filoni was
1.
like, "Oh."
Oh, that's funny.
So
I love that.
That's funny if you're able to like correct a George Lucas or a Dave
Yeah.
Filoni, like
immediate
that must be
cred,
points, right?
Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which, you know, how many times has that happened? I wonder.
Yeah.
Probably not much.
Someone has to be brave enough to say something too, right? Like,
Well, yeah,
That's
that's
true.
true. That's true.
I
At least for
think I would-
George, right?
yeah, exactly.
yeah, there's a difference between, I'm sure, piping up for Dave Filoni and piping up for George Lucas, right?
Yeah. Well, back to whoever's going to be there at Fan Expo, or whatever, I was going to say, if it's Matt Lantner, Ashley, then is it James Arnold Taylor then?
Yes,
It is James
that's
Arnold
it.
Taylor.
Okay, I was
yeah.
going to say that's who the other voice would be.
So I'm really thinking about spending a little bit of money
I
and
knew
just
that off the top of my
meeting
head.
them because they
Big
they
animation
actually
fan
do-
you are.
They actually
Clone
do
Wars.
the pictures at the table, so yeah. What was I going to say? But and what's his name? The Rancor keeper from the Book of
Danny
Boba
Trejo.
Fett.
Oh,
He
really?
should be there.
Hey.
He'd
Yeah,
be
that's
there.
super cool.
Are they?
So
Is
kinda
the
thinking-
big Rancor going to be there? Roxy or whatever, the big one that that shows up at all the cons. She's like the display one. She's like a full size scale Rancor that shows up.
I don't think we get that up here
Roxy the Rancor
in Toronto. We should.
It's
Damn.
too cold.
She's
I think
super
for
cool.
Rancors up in Toronto. I think it's too cold.
Oh.
It's all the igloos.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can tell me that and I believe you.
Yeah.
It's what? It's like
You don't wanna
600
risk
degrees
the
in Florida right
cave-in?
now.
What? Yeah, no, it is about like, oh, I don't know. You guys are Celsius. I don't know. I'm a stupid American. I don't I don't know how to read your thermometers.
First I'm reading Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit means nothing.
I know it
40.
doesn't.
What do you mean? What's
I
that
know,
mean,
I
40?
know, and I have to use inches and feet. Okay, listen, like,
And she doesn't know what King's Convenience is, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's a dark day for Jen. She's never gonna come back now. We're just like braiding her with
Yeah.
yeah.
stuff, right?
I'll see you guys in a year.
No, she'll have to come back. We'll just send her hate mail. We'll
Yeah.
pretend we're the people.
No, that's what
All
it's
the
gonna
hate
be.
mail
Like,
goes to America.
so you guys are gonna have another episode like Jen watched Andor now. It's gonna be like your theme. I
We'll
can
have to
see it
do an
now.
Andor podcast part 2.
Yeah, totally.
Something.
He's going like,
Jen's reactions.
this is a really good show, guys. Really? It's like, we only talked about a year ago, but yes.
I'm so sorry.
That's true. Actually, they're doing well. Who knows if they're doing a season 2 now with the strike and everything? But I mean,
I
they were
think
doing.
I think everything
started
hit
it.
pause, eh?
Yeah, they had to pause it. I know they started. They were almost done.
Everything.
As far as I know.
Well, I hope it doesn't cost $250 million. Like they can't.
Oh.
They
You think
can't
to
do
stop
that
it?
money anymore.
To stop it and bring it back again?
Yeah.
That's like there's so many. I know the Deadpool 3 didn't get done. Like there's a whole bunch of things that's like that we're gonna run out of content soon. I know we're gonna have lots of movies until like probably April or so, new stuff, but after that, so you're pretty sparse.
Yeah.
So anyone in the chat listening to us right now, make a or leave a comment. Let us know what you're most excited about for the upcoming Ahsoka series and what you'd like to see or who you'd like her to fight. Let us know.
Everyone.
The posters
Star
that they
Killer.
released recently look
everyone.
very
Yeah,
cool.
Star Killer. Then we can have Sam Witwer.
I know.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I'm excited to see.
Poor Ray
is it
Stevens.
Balin? Is this character Balin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray Stevens. I'm excited to see that. Yeah. Yeah, it's really too bad. Too bad to hear about his passing there. So cool to see Harrison Dula too. Excited
Yeah,
to see
live
that.
action. That looks really cool.
She was always, I think she was my second favorite character in that show.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we get Zeb again. He looked so good in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That's
there's
true,
no,
yeah.
they haven't talked about Zeb or like, but
They
Ezra's
gotta
going to
get the
be.
whole
I
band
think that's-
back together, right? If
Yeah.
they're going after Ezra.
I guess so, yeah.
If they could bring Kanan
be
back
really
to
cool.
life.
No, they're not gonna do that.
I know. They can't.
My heart can't take it.
Wasn't he vaporized?
Oh,
Basically,
such a good.
yes.
Can you imagine
Stop
if
it!
we
I
got
don't
a
even want to
Freddie
think about
Prinze
it. You're gonna
Jr.
make me
cameo?
cry, Todd.
Oh, it shocked me when that happened. I was watching with
Me
my
too.
kids.
I was like,
weekend.
it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. And then like it wasn't fine.
No, it wasn't. That's what's funny. The thing I started talking earlier about Filoni and the voice actress for Ahsoka and how he always hinted at Ahsoka's going to die, and then he stopped doing it, and then he started hinting at. Then Obi-Wan, the guy who voiced Obi-Wan in Clone Wars, said, "But then
James
you."
Arnold Taylor.
What's that? Sorry.
Yeah.
James Arnold Taylor. That's the voice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
Okay, yeah.
then Filoni started hinting at, I guess, his love interest character, and then
Sabine.
yeah, and then
Satine.
yeah,
Satine.
exactly. And
That
one
was
did,
awful.
and that one did end so well, apparently. So.
Oh, have you not seen that one? That's awful.
Oh, that's hard. That's Gut
Oh, I would
reaction.
have left the order
I
if
think
you
I'm
had
in
said the
season.
word or whatever. Oh,
I'm in season 5, I think. I'm in season 5. That's why I haven't watched the ending. I want to watch as it goes along. So I think I'm in
oh
season
my
5.
gosh, it's so good though. Their love
Yeah.
interest is so like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect because it runs in parallel to Anakin Padme. You know what I mean? So you actually get to see like like a Jedi in love but with self-control kind of like you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like because he loved her so much, but like he loved the order more. Like it was just a and like she loved him so much that she never would have asked him to leave the order. And like
I've seen that episode. I've seen that episode when they talked
Yeah.
about that if she asked him, he said he would have left.
yeah, no
Yeah,
that
I mean,
but
it was some
then
deep stuff.
but then Maul.
Oh, Maul.
Oh,
Maul.
see, you guys are gonna make me cry. Can't.
That's the sole purpose of tonight is make Jen cry. You said it's
That's the
Jen's
only
coming
reason.
back. Let's make her cry. So that's what we're
not
doing.
hard
Yeah,
to
that was not
do.
my list. Make Jen
Yeah.
cry. It's right.
Yeah.
Bingo. That was on.
Actually,
Talk
the
about
story
another character that got great character development in animation too. Maul, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, way better than the prequels, right? He kind of
Yeah.
came back and came back and came back.
Coolest looking villain, arguably outside of Darth Vader.
Absolutely.
And kill him off right away. Double bladed lightsaber. I remember going crazy seeing that for the first time.
Oh, everybody did, yeah.
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 And that was one of the things, like he was all over the promo stuff, right? It was like episode 1 and like Maul's face. It was like everything. Remember, it was like Burger King's cups and like, you know, remember, or I don't remember.
Pepsi, yeah.
But it was like everywhere. And then they were like, and he's dead. It was like, but why? Like, you know, because he was so cool looking and he was like such a cool character. And I thought for sure we were going to get him for like all the movies. So I was glad they brought him back.
What a great fight. That fight between, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and him. Amazing. Like, because we'd never seen anything. We seen that kind of slower kendo style to this like Chinese wire fighting kind of deal.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And my favorite part of that fight is after Qui-Gon was almost killed there, he's laying there. The fury that Obi-Wan comes into the room with was wild to me. I always rewind that part over and over and over because it's crazy. Like, because like Obi-Wan is like bouncing like before the little screen goes. He's like bouncing like, like a fighter getting ready, and he's like angry, right? So it's like,
and they go like right into it, like bang, 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 like 3 big strikes right off. That was a great fight. I will say Maul has 3 of the 4 greatest lightsaber duels in all of Star Wars, right? Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Maul. Ahsoka and Maul at the end of Clone Wars.
Which you need to watch, Todd.
Which you need to watch. One of the greatest animated lightsaber fights.
I guess I'll do that tonight. I'll
Maul
start
and
watching
Obi-Wan in Rebels. Unreal. Then, of course, you got up at the tippy top, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Hey,
so Darth Maul is so great. He won 1 out of 5 fights. With
Listen, I don't want to hear your
and
logic.
He's got 0 legs.
He's like
0 real legs.
He beat Qui-Gon. Then he lost to Obi-Wan, lost to Ahsoka, lost to Ben Kenobi.
But barely.
That doesn't mean he's not a great villain, though. It just means that he's not as good as everybody else.
He's just not good at fighting.
You gotta think of, besides Darth Vader, he's the best looking, most menacing character there was.
He was so awesome.
Look,
and then we had an old man in episode 2. They're bringing this old man, Christopher Lee, in to be the big bad guy, which is less intimidating as Maul was, right? I know that Lucas had plans to bring back Maul in episode 7, him to be the main villain, which I think would have been really cool for the sequel trilogy, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But
Hey, Christopher Lee's like what, 6'5", 6'6"? He was he was a British spy during World War II.
Oh yeah, he's like as a person, he was awesome.
Well, absolutely,
a cool dude through and through. Also a big nerd too, right? Like talking about 2 major franchises, huge villains: Lord of the Rings and Star Wars too.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
and he was a Bond villain too. So I mean,
oh yes,
he's like right.
What movie? Which one is he the Bond villain in?
Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There was a behind the scenes from Lord of the Rings where it's when Wormtongue kills him or something, slits his throat, and Peter Jackson's given him the how it should sound and blah blah blah. And Christopher Lee says something to the extent of, "I know exactly what a man sounds like when his throat is slit," because he's probably done it many times.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty crazy. And he's so, how could someone that big be a spy? You know, you want your spy
Stands
to
out
blend
everywhere.
in. Yeah, it's like, look at that giant walking through the crowd. I wonder if he's supposed to be here. And there's that picture. He's supposed to be related somehow to Charlemagne. And you see an old painting of Charlemagne and him side by side. Wow. Family resemblance is crazy. You should look that up. Yeah, it's wild. But anyways, I always liked his lightsaber fighting style. When he fights Anakin and Obi-Wan and like just obviously kicks their butt, he's using kind of like a rapier fencing style instead of the two-handed. It's like, it's rapier. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. There was they had a big fight in Clone Wars 2, and someone did a YouTube video breakdown about like how actually skilled Dooku is, that he understood the fighting style of Anakin and Obi-Wan and made them fight on their weak points both times. So Anakin's a stronger attacking fighter and Obi-Wan's a stronger defensive fighter. And the way he handled them both was he made Obi-Wan attack and he made Anakin be on the defensive, and that's how he handled them both attacking at the same time. It's a really cool video. Definitely check it out. But again, more backstory into just the brilliance of Dooku as a swordsman.
Well, Tales of the Jedi really changed me. I was a fan of Dooku in Tales of the Jedi.
Absolutely. Well, again,
loved him.
Much more development, right? We're talking about in the animation how it develops characters. What they do with Dooku in that series was amazing.
Yeah, and it's similar to Anakin. What Palpatine did, just different. I found a lot of their stories similar, as in the manipulation. Or even what they're like, because he was, angry at the Jedi and didn't like what they were doing, and it was kind of like Anakin, but in a different way, and it was really similar. Except, Dooku should have been a lot smarter about it, but you could see his points. It's just that villain, where you see their points, they're just going about it the wrong way. So, but yeah, did you see Tales of the Jedi, Jen?
I don't want to answer that.
Oh,
Stop
no.
shaming me.
No.
So
you should watch it. They're really short. They're
take
like
your screenshots, send your name.
They're like 15 minutes long each.
I know. I watched some of them. I did watch some of them. I didn't watch the Dooku one though.
Dooku, I'm like a super fan of Dooku from that. I mean, he turned out to be.
I'll watch it too. I'm writing it down actually right now. And
she's not writing anything. I say the same thing to my wife. He doesn't believe me. Like, oh, sorry, I'll write it down for you. There you go.
I did. I wrote it down.
Okay. Wow. Well, your generation,
so nice
man.
having you again, Jen.
My generation. Wait a second.
We'll never see her again.
Hey.
Way to go, Todd.
I was gonna.
I got to draw the line here at some point.
That's right. Sorry, the geezers. But anyways, so sorry, I was just looking at my list of I think we kind of covered everything that I was going to go over. I couldn't think of anything to be a devil's advocate for and kind of get everyone angry, like I try to do every time we do this, because it's kind of funny. But
I made everyone angry with my failure to watch things.
Oh, that's right.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, you're looking pretty good on this podcast now, eh?
I wasn't angry. I was just disappointed, Jen. Just disappointed.
Oh, jeez. Hit me with
just
the
like a dad.
Ugh.
It's like, it's okay. We're just disappointed. That's okay. I mean, you do you.
Please come back, Jen.
That's funny.
I will.
Otherwise, the two old men have to divert our attention to Darth Slobo over there. So
see, that's what
Oh,
he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's trying to
I
push
see.
the
I see.
attention.
You need me to take the heat from these two. I see.
Wow. See what I tell you about your generation? It's terrible.
we're old.
All right. And with that, I think we'll close it up here. But hey, thanks, Jen, for joining us and never coming back again because of it. And
we're gonna see our subscriber list drop by one after tonight's episode.
No.
like, why did it go down by one? Now we have one. This is terrible. I feel so bad.
But it's not you.
I know. Oh yeah, I need to subscribe. Anyways, I'll do that later. Let me write it down.
Poor Jen. Jen, we really like you. Don't worry. It seems like we're picking on you, but we're not.
No, I love it. It's fine.
Okay. With that, make sure everyone follows us and subscribes and forgives us for this episode. That'd be great. So, looking forward to Ahsoka. Yay, nay?
Yay!
Absolutely.
No spoilers next week because I'm out doing a film camp next week, so I'm going to miss the premiere. So please, no spoilers until I get back on the Monday.
Wow.
Yeah,
Choosing children over Star Wars, Todd.
It's
What
my wife's
kind of
fault,
fan
really.
are you, Todd?
It's my wife's fault. Come on.
Jen's happy. She's like, I'm turning it back on to him.
I was making sure my wife can hear me say that. Right? I'm in question again.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
All right.
Of course, be with you. Bye. That was pretty good. Nice going, Todd.